Hello and welcome back to Saber Outdoors. My name, of course, is Mark Alexander, your wonderful host. And guys, today we are doing bass rods versus catfish rods. But before we get to that, guys, I wanted to thank you all so very much because we're up over 500 subscribers, which makes me super fired up. And that means that I have now attained tier 1 monetization with YouTube. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I cannot thank you enough for subscribing, for liking, for commenting, for doing all the YouTube things and getting me out there to everyone so that they can see what we're doing. But guys, we're gonna get back to the video now. So guys, we're doing catfishing rods versus bass rods. So the reason this question comes up to me is I was looking through my rods. They are numerous, and I did get new rods for Christmas. Thank you very much to the friend that knows who his name is. But I'm going to show you kind of my thought process. So I was dragging around my junk, and I was like, this is one of my favorite bass setups, you know, Abu Garcia 10-to-1 reel, and it's a medium heavy. Okay, cool, medium heavy. Lots of bass rods are medium heavy. But then I got to looking at my catfish rod, and I'm like, well, this also says it's a medium heavy, but this rod, you know, if you look at the tips especially, look at the ends. The end on this one's almost twice the thickness of this. So I was like, what's the difference? What's the A to B? And I got to looking at more of my stuff, because I have lots of stuff, lots of junk laying around. And I'm like, okay, I've got this setup. This is my SLX setup. Used it many times. I've got my Corrado DC on it, and it's rated heavy. Okay, this heavy action rod, cool. So I'm like, let's see what my new setup is. So I grabbed my new setup. Woo! This thing is a thick boy. Guys, I'm gonna tell you all about this, but I will tell you, this also, on the rod, lists it as a heavy setup. Now, you tell me, well-known, well-respected bass rod, catfish rod. One of these things does not look like the other. So I was like, what's the difference? What are we working with? Now, guys, this is the only new competitor on our channel, so this is the one I'm going to talk about in a minute. This is a Eagle Claw Ozark Snagger rod. This is a 7-foot heavy action snagging rod. It's been decked out in tape, and it's got a nice big old ball on the end of it where you can, I mean, yank on them dudes. And it is topped with a Abu Garcia 7000C, and this is a really nice setup. Let me get the thing where it'll go. This doesn't even have a button on it. You have a flipper to flip it open, and you can either turn on the bait run and have it like that, or you can turn that off and have it not do that. That way you can leave it free spooling, and then when something's on, you can flip, and then you are reeling away. But guys, I was like, I've got all these setups. Let me put something similar on each one of them. I've got 3-ounce weights on all of these. And let's just see the difference between bass rods and catfish rods. But guys, that's what we're gonna do. Don't run off. All right, guys, so for test 1, what I've done, I've got both the rods fouled up in this table. You can see that how I've got them set. Let me get them a little bit better organized here. And you can see they're not going to go anywhere. What I'm going to do, I have an equal distance on both of these weights. The first thing I'm going to do a flex test. I want to know, these are supposed to be the same action rod. So I have equal amounts of distance. So are they going to flex the same, or are they not? That's the question I want to ask. Virtually the same. In fact, this has a little bit more tension. Of course, this has a lot more backbone. It's harder over here. But as far as the arc is almost the exact same. Here, I'll do it again just for you all to see. Now, this is definitely harder to pull that direction, but when you see that arc over, it arcs the exact same amount. It just takes more effort to do that. That's why they call this a medium action rod, and this also a medium action rod. Now, there's all kinds of other terminology to go with it to tell, you know, fast, slow, whatever kind of actions like that. Guys, I'm not a professional, I am functional. Functionally saying these two bend at the same rate, although this takes more force to do it. But guys, let me get my two heavy rods, and I don't know if that Ozark Snagger is going to bend at all, but we're going to sure try. All right, guys, so I've got both of our heavy competitors in this as well. They also have equal amounts of line out. And guys, this Ozark Snagger has 90-pound mono on it. I don't think it will break, but if it does, pray for me, because it's probably going to hurt. But let's flex these and see what the difference is. So let's give them a little flex. Wow, look how much I'm at the same level. Much different for this test. A lot of difference on that test. This, in my opinion, I would even call this an extra heavy for me, but my medium probably flexes very much like this SLX does. And in fact, I'm going to pull my other Catfish rod up, and I'm going to put that Catfish rod next to this SLX and see if it's mostly the same, just to kind of get an idea of what I'm working with, because this Snagger, it don't want to hardly bend at all. I'm actually quite afraid to bend it much more than right about there, because that's a thick boy. But let me get my other Catfish rod up here and we'll test them against each other. All right, guys, so now I have the medium heavy Catfish rod sitting next to my heavy bass rod. So let's flex these and see what kind of look they have compared to each other. See how much more this one wants to flex in? This one wants to quit flexing right about this set eye right here, where this one wants to quit flexing even down into here. Watch, I'll flex them over pretty hard this time. See the difference? How much further down this one is compared to that one? That's real neat. You know, this kind of experimentation stuff, you know, you learn a lot of useless information, but guys, it's definitely a difference even between a Catfish rod to a heavy action bass rod. But guys, let's quit flexing. Let's start throwing these things and see what they do with these big 3-ounce weights. All right, guys, so rubber's about to meet the road. I've got my medium heavy bass set up here, and guys, I'm going to do this same test twice. I'm going to do this with what I would think, you know, would be a reasonable weight for catfishing. You know, not only the weight, but also the bait to go with it. So we're throwing 3-ounce weights, and I think that's reasonable for a big bait and a big weight on a catfishing setup. But I want to see the difference between going and throwing something meant for catfishing versus something for bass fishing. But this is our medium heavy bass rod, and guys, let's just let the rubber meet the road. This is not rated for 3 ounces, by the way. I know, you don't have to tell me in the comments. That thing felt like it was going a mile, and it didn't even make it much farther really than the thing. But the rod's handling it great. I mean, you can see I don't feel, it's got a little bit of wiggle to it, but I don't think I'm overpowered in any way. But it's only going about what I would expect for most things, really. But guys, that wasn't so bad. That's reasonable. You can do that. and I don't feel like my shoulder's been jerked out of socket, or I've had to really put a serious amount of effort to get this out. So let's try our catfish rod with what I would think is reasonable catfish weight. All right, guys, so I have same weight, same 3 ounce weight on our heavy setup. And guys, we're gonna give it a try, but you can see just before we even get going, our setup's not really dangling that bad. And this rod in particular, this bass rod, is weighted for 1/2 ounce to 1.5 ounce. So again, we're over the rating. I don't care. I'm going to use it anyway. And it went a little farther than my medium heavy bass setup, but not much farther. Felt a little heavy, you know, like you would expect. But reeling it in, the rod's not bent over too much. Of course, this is like an 8-to-1 reel, so it's coming in relatively quick. And it is heavy because it's an 8-to-1 reel, but that's not the rod's fault. Guys, we're just testing the rod. So, not bad. Not bad. Let's give one more shot with it and see how it feels. Ooh, almost the other shoreline. And you can hear that digital chip giving it a workout. But guys, handled it just fine. You know, I didn't feel a very significant amount of difference myself, other than it was able to throw it a little bit farther than either of my other setups. Very easy to work with, not difficult at all. But let's put this one away and let's get that big haul snagger out. All right, guys. So I have the snagger here, and of course it's got that same 3 ounce weight on it, and you can plainly see that 3 ounce weight ain't doing nothing to the end of that rod. I have never thrown this, not even a single time. I hope and pray that it does not immediately bird nest on me. But we're gonna get it ready. Okay, so we got it out there. We did something with it. A lot heavier rod this thing is. Like, I don't know why they call this a heavy. This, in my opinion, should be called an extra, or maybe even an extra heavy. But of course, reeling it in is going to take a minute because this is a 4-to-1 gear ratio. But there is exactly no bend in that rod. Get all the crud off of it, and we will flip our thing, and let's throw it one more time. Let's give it a little bit more line than that. Let's throw it one more time and just see how far we can get it. So, whew. That was the shortest distance of any of them. But guys, big difference for these. Well, guys, we've tried them all with catfishing weights. Now let's tie some jigs or some kind of weights on and see what we can do with something that I would consider normal for bass fishing, because these are bass rods and catfish rods. All right, guys, after a warming session somewhere other than this location, we are back and we have this weight on there. Now, this is just a 3/4 ounce weight. Guys, this thing seems so tiny. It's like, look at that cute little thing in comparison to that big 3 ounce weight. But we've got our medium heavy setup up here, and just like the other setup, just like the other weight, this doesn't really affect it. But now we're inside of what this rod is designed to do. So speaking of designed to do, let's see what it does. Not really much different as far as the distance, which is quite surprising. Digs into the bottom like I would expect. Now there is, you know, of course this reel's faster because it is so much lighter. But that's the reel, that's not the rod. How does this feel for the rod? So let's give it one more feels good, not a problem. Even getting it started out of that mud, I don't feel overmatched with this much weight, that is. It's not like the other where it feels significantly like I really shouldn't be doing it, which I guess if I was following the rules of the law, I shouldn't be doing, but I did. But guys, we're gonna put this away. Actually, before I do that, let me show you, because I showed you on the other. Look how much less that 3/4 ounce, because duh, it's lighter. But there is a little bit of motion at the end whenever you're moving. But guys, let's move to the Catfish rod and see if it does as well, if it feels as well as this bass rod. All right, we got our 3/4 ounce weight on the end of our Catfish medium heavy rod. Again, just a little bit of movement if you jiggle the rod up and down a little bit. But let's see how she throws. Does she throw pretty much the same? They're all the same length. I forgot to let you all know. They're all 7-foot rods. But yeah, I mean, it didn't go quite as far, and that's a real thing. It's not a rod thing. But feels good, not a problem. Yeah. Guys, this doesn't even feel like it's hardly even there. But strangely enough, you know, even this much less weight doesn't really affect how far it casts, at least at this point. And I've not fiddled with the reels, you know, I've not been trying to get maximum distance or any kind of things like that. But guys, let's try our heavy action rods. All right, guys, so we've got our heavy rod here, and let's just jiggle towards the end. Not much deflection at all, and let's give her a cast and see how she feels. Almost the exact same distance, which is wild to me. I thought that, you know, 3 ounces of weight is over triple the amount of weight that I'm currently throwing. I thought it would send it a mile away. So far, not the case, which is quite unique. Reeling it back, you know, the rod doesn't have any bend to it at all, which I wouldn't expect it to with 3/4 ounces of weight. Let's give her one more shot. Woo! Right in the very farthest corner away. I don't even know if you all can see that far away. But did good. Feels good. You know, it doesn't feel overmatched in this particular setup, which 3/4 ounce for this is right in the middle of the rating that is on this rod. But yeah, pretty neat. Let's grab the snagger and see what it does. All right, guys, so I have adjusted this Abu Garcia 7000 to slowly drop this 3/4 ounce weight. So I am hopeful that this will end well. But guys, of course, this has absolutely no, I can bounce this as long as I want to, and it's not gonna bend that at all. But let's see if it will cast this at all. So that's a curiosity that I have. This thing is so... Oh, and she didn't bird nest, but it is a little loose now. I didn't even have the clicker on. I thought I had it on. She just whined that much. This dude is heavy. I know that for sure. Well, let's give her a little bit more line here. We're gonna cast her one more time and see what she does. Okay. Again, really not that much difference as far as distance. I thought that the 3 ounce weight, again, would just sail away. And really, 3/4 hadn't done much different, which is quite a different thing. I would not have expected that. But let's get her in. And guys, let's get over to the table and talk about this. All right, guys, so we have tested both the medium heavy rods and the heavy rods with that lightweight, and I think that we have at least something that we can talk about. So one thing for sure, if it says it's a medium heavy or a heavy setup, guys, that's only saying where that bend is eventually going to end up being. So I would imagine that a medium setup where this wants to bend, I think it's this eye, but I want to say it's this eye right here. So right here's where that wants to really bend over and stop bending. I would wonder and think that a medium power would want to bend even further down into my rod blank. But guys, I'm not a professional. Don't pretend to be a professional. Not asking you to take my advice, just asking you to be entertained by an interesting subject that I stumbled upon. But of these 4, what would I do with these? Well, guys, the 2 bass rods, we're going bass fishing with those, because bass. Those are easy, you know, boom, thank you for coming kind of deals, because those are great bass rods. That's why I bought them. That's why I still own them. They're great for topwater. They're great for jig fishing. They're great for a number of different purposes, and I'm going to use them for those purposes in the new year. And guys, this medium heavy catfish rod, this is just a cheap Zebco rod. Guys, this is probably what I'm going to use for my catfishing setup. Nice Abu Garcia 5000 reel. I think this is 5000, could be something else, but good Abu Garcia reel, braid line, should handle a good, big, nice, heavy fish if I ever get into one. But guys, this Ozark Snagger, it lived up to its name, because Jesus Christ, this thing is heavy, and it is a big mama to have to wang around and whirl with. I'm gonna have to get somebody that knows more about me, and guys, we might try our luck with some snagging later on in the year. Tell me in the comment section, would you want me to go do some snagging content? Because I got the setup for it now, thank goodness. But guys, this Abu Garcia 7000C reel, guys, I need to learn more about this reel so that I can coax more distance out of it, and we might do that another day on the channel. But as for today, this video is over with, because I am chilly cold, because it's like 34 with a nice little wind going. So guys, I'm gonna just say the usual YouTube things. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification, subscribe, because we made it to tier 1 monetization. I want to make it to tier 2 full monetization with ad revenue, baby. But guys, in the meantime, thank you so very much for watching. We'll see you somewhere in the woods or on the water.